How old are your kids?
My daughter just turned 1 and my son is almost 3.
Oh, wow, yeah, so you've got your hands full.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also have, I think you have kids magnesium in there, right? Yeah, we have a sample of kids magnesium in there.
Okay.
So it's also that powder form, but it's a magnesium-based multi, so we combine it with different nutrients in order to help proper growth and concentration for children. So the K2 in there, the calcium to help make sure that their bones and teeth are forming properly. There's B6 in there to help with their concentration, vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc to help with their immune health. So your kids might enjoy that one. I know my kids love it. Yes, so that specific form of ionic magnesium citrate has to be activated in water. It's the only thing that will properly activate it, but once it's been activated, it can be put into anything. So it is a flavored product. You can put as much or as little water as you like into it, so it depends how concentrated the kids like the taste. It's not super sweet, but there is a sweetness to it. But if the children don't like the taste, then once it's activated, you can put it in juice. Again, with that specific form, it has to be activated in water, and the hotter the water, the faster it will activate. So if you do a little bit of hot water, like do you make your calm with hot water or cold?
I actually didn't know I had to put it in pure water, so I was putting it in juice, but now I know.
Okay, so I mean, juice would still activate some of it, but it often doesn't activate all of it. Okay. So if you do hot water, like a bit of hot water, you'll see like this fizzing, and then the fizzing will stop, and then it will settle and be clear. That's how you know it's active. If you add cold water, it won't have as strong of a fizzing action. It'll just like do this for, depending on how cold the water, 10 to 30 minutes. So you want to wait until it's completely settled, and that means every particle, every molecule is now active for use. If you drink it before it's completely active, it could give you bowel upset, or you just won't absorb it. So it's not like the end of the world, but to get the most out of it, you want to make sure it's completely active. I like to do it with just a little bit of hot water. Then it's done fizzing, it settles. Then I add more cold water, or at that point you can add it to juice. Mm-hmm.
3 things.
Yes.
It's not recording again. So
okay.
You're back live. Number 2, I'm looking for a magnesium. Productivity is very important for me. Word on the street, there's a magnesium that goes straight to the brain. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So the brain has like the blood-brain barrier protection. But there's a magnesium that supposedly just bypasses that, and it helps with like cognition and like makes you super smart. Is this true?
Yes, it is true. So,
and do you have samples?
Yes, we don't have samples of that specific product, but we have just released into the market at an extremely great price point, probably the best price point you'll find in Canada. So we can definitely hook you up. So that form of magnesium is called magnesium L-threonate. So we touched on it in here as a form of magnesium. It's magnesium attached to threonic acid. Now, most people, including myself when this came out, said, what is threonic acid? So threonic acid is what we call a metabolite of vitamin C. So when we take vitamin C, it breaks down into our body, and one of the things it breaks down into is threonic acid. So researchers isolated this threonic acid, attached it to magnesium, and found that that would bring the magnesium into the brain. So we have what you said, the blood-brain barrier. That is a barrier in our body to make sure that our brain isn't just like absorbing everything. We don't want toxins in our brain. So our brain has to be selective about what it can allow it to go into. And so there will be some magnesium in general that, the brain will allow, because our brain does need some magnesium. So if I just take magnesium bisglycinate, or I'm getting my magnesium through food, some of it will still be going to the brain. But this unique form of magnesium allows, according to research, basically all of it. It's hard to always say all of it, but whatever we take in that form to go into our brain. And that's the purpose of the threonic acid. So the threonic acid carries the magnesium right into the brain. So it has huge benefits for cognitive health, especially people with concussions, with memory issues. It helps reduce brain aging, Alzheimer's. So it has really good applications for brain health. It's a newer form of magnesium. I believe it's the newest form of supplemental magnesium. And there's 2 kind of main, this is what I was talking about with the $76.99. So there's a patented form called Magtine. They're the company that patented this form of magnesium, that's done the research on it, that's done all the advertising on it. They've done an awesome job at advertising it. You hear it on podcasts, you hear a lot about it. And then there's the generic form, so it's not the patented form. So to help people understand it, we talk about how you have like acetaminophen is a painkiller, or it's branded as Tylenol. So Tylenol is still acetaminophen, it's just a specific brand name of Tylenol. So that's your Magtein versus your generic L-threonate. It's just like a white label. So we just released an L-threonate into the market in February. We are the only company doing a completely pure one. We don't manufacture with any lubricants in our machines. So in our capsules, the only ingredient in our capsules that you'll see is that active ingredient, which helps with absorption of these supplements. So that specific form of magnesium is great. We talked about absorbability. It absorbs extremely well also. The drawback to it is that the threonic acid takes most of the space in the capsule, leaving very little room for the magnesium. So we talked about magnesium bisglycinate. We're looking at about 12% of it is magnesium and 88% of it is glycine. With the L-threonate, it's more like 92.5% is the threonic acid and 7.5% is the magnesium. So it's not a terrible thing, but when we take that form, the suggested capsule serving based on all the research is 3 capsules, which gives us about 150 milligrams of magnesium. And it goes into our brain, which is great. But we need more, our body needs magnesium just like our brain needs magnesium. So if we're taking that specific form, we would recommend also taking other forms of magnesium so that you're getting magnesium into your brain, and you can have huge implications for your mental health. But then you also want to make sure that you're getting magnesium into your bones and muscles and nervous system and everything else. So we also have a supplement called Mag Trio, which combines the magnesium L-threonate with 2 other well-absorbed forms, magnesium bisglycinate and magnesium taurate, if you're looking at getting a few different forms.
So I just want to give everybody an opportunity, because I pitched it as an hour presentation. Some of them have like scheduled appointments. How much longer?
We're almost done, actually. Yeah, we
I
can.
want to make sure some have questions they want to ask.
Yes, for sure.
And I don't want to steal them of that opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll finish up and make sure that we can do that. And again, I apologize to everybody for going to the wrong location. So again, the medium. So we need to look at, am I willing, am I able to make a drink? Or am I willing to swallow 4 capsules to get the optimal dosage? Am I willing to open up those capsules in water? So you have to make, when you're trying to get healthy, it has to work in your routine. You know, you can have all the best intentions, but if you don't do it, then there's no point. So we always really like to say to people, you know, just really think about what works. Some people I know, they'll activate their powder, fill it with cold water, and use that to drink the rest of their supplements in a day. There's, you know, or if they have a tea before bed, then they'll make it with that magnesium. So there's lots of ways to do it. You just have to look at what medium is going to work best for you, because if it doesn't work, you're not going to take it. So what really fits best with your routine? And then lastly, what is the benefit you're trying to get through magnesium? So this is where we hear, you know, again, magnesium L-threonate is good for the brain. Magnesium bisglycinate is good for sleep. Magnesium citrate is good for the muscles. Magnesium, as long as you're getting magnesium, it will help for all of those 800 things. The benefit of magnesium is just to get magnesium in the body, but because we have that second carrier molecule, we're also getting benefit from that. So if we take magnesium bisglycinate, we're getting benefit from the magnesium, but we're also getting benefit from the glycine. If we take magnesium citrate, we're getting benefit from the magnesium, but we're also getting benefit from the citric acid. So make sure, number one, that you're getting a well-absorbed magnesium, because otherwise you're not getting any magnesium benefit. If you're taking magnesium oxide, it's all flushing out. So make sure you're absorbing magnesium. Then look at what works best with my routine. You know, do I need to do a powder here? Do I need to do a capsule? What works for me? And then lastly, once you work through that noise, if all the answers are yes, 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 I can do all of this and they all absorb well, okay, well now what benefit am I looking for? Something like magnesium citrate will still help for sleep because it's giving you magnesium. But magnesium bisglycinate can be a bit stronger because it's giving you magnesium and glycine. So, you know, are we looking at a bit better cognitive and mental health? Are we looking at a bit better sleep? Are we looking at a bit better muscular health, muscle cramps, restless legs? And that would be your very last thing for choosing a magnesium supplement to look at, okay, what am I exactly trying to target here? So that's why we have different forms, and that's why we do, I mentioned the Mag Trio, we do a combination of forms for people that are kind of like, oh, you know, I just want complete overall benefit. I just want, you know, kind of like a multivitamin of magnesium. Then some people might choose that Mag Trio, but again, I find that because of all the confusion, people get way too hung up on what form to take. Just remember, as long as it's being absorbed, it will help you for all the good things that magnesium helps you for. They're also back to quickly the bowel thing. We do have to keep in mind is something like magnesium bisglycinate does not act on the bowels if we take it in the right amount, does not draw water to the bowels, but something like the ionic magnesium citrate, it hydrates the muscles. It's a great one for physical activity, but it will also hydrate the bowels. So it shouldn't cause bowel upset, but it can cause a little bit of looser bowels or help with constipation. If you have normal bowels, it still should be fine, but if you have really loose bowels, then you want to be careful about taking an ionic magnesium citrate because you don't want any more water in your bowels. So again, that's the very last piece of the puzzle. You know, I want to make sure it's well absorbed. I want to make sure it fits into my routine. And then if I still have the luxury of deciding which one is best, then you can look at that carrier molecule. So I know it's a lot of information. So we kind of say like, now what do I do? So decide, do I want an oral or topical magnesium? As I mentioned, we recommend both. Target the muscles and target all those internal systems. Do capsules or powders fit my routine better? What's my primary goal for supplementing with magnesium? And then your last one is now you choose your magnesium supplement. So it doesn't hurt to talk to an expert, talk to somebody at a health food store, talk to Sarah or me, reach out to our company, and we can really help you pick the best magnesium supplement for your routine. We always recommend trying to get as many nutrients as we can through food. But as we mentioned, it's very difficult to get proper magnesium through food, so we recommend a supplement on top of it. So I just want to say thank you so much for attending today. We'll open it up to some public Q&A, and also if you have any specific questions you want to get in touch with me after privately, I'm around. We also have samples of bags. We have a full-size serving of our Prismag Pure Magnesium Bisglycinate capsules, so completely pure, only company in Canada right now retailing in stores of a completely pure magnesium bisglycinate capsule. We have a full-size topical gel for you in there as well, and then a couple of other samples and brochures and information in there. Are there any other questions that people have before we, yes?
So does it like matter if somebody is like, for example, like me, like my size versus somebody bigger, or vice versa? Like, would it matter the dose?
Yes, it can, but it gets complicated too because it also matters like how much you're getting through your diet and how much physical activity you have. So, you know, I always like to give the example. My brother is 6'3", and he's an air traffic controller, so he has a high-stress job. He actually takes 6 of the magnesium bisglycinate capsules. So he just knows that, you know, he has more stress and needs more magnesium. So it does. We always recommend playing around with your dose. You know, try 2 of the bisglycinate capsules, see how you feel. Try 3, try 4, try 5. Your body will tell you when you've had too much magnesium, and just make sure that when you do that kind of experiment, you stay really in tune with your body. You know, maybe write a few things down. This is what I noticed. This is how I slept. Not everybody requires that 4 dose. That's the optimal dose for the average person. But again, smaller people, less active people, less stressed people, you know, better diets, all of that would change our magnesium needs. Mm-hmm.
Is there a direct benefit for women specifically with taking magnesium citrate over bisglycinate, or is there really no difference? I think I've heard from somewhere along that women should take magnesium citrate over bisglycinate, but I wasn't sure if there was a inherent difference.
I've never come across anything. Have you, Sarah?
The only thing I can think of is their bone formula line, which has added like K2, D3, which is really good for like regulating women's hormones or estrogen and progesterone levels. So that's what I would recommend. But
yeah, I think in terms of a specific form, I haven't seen any research. I mean, I'd be very open if anybody saw the research and shared it with me about why, but I've never seen any specific. Everybody reacts to different magnesiums in different ways. Like some people, like I have a friend who takes our ionic magnesium citrate and she sleeps well, but not perfectly. So I said, try the magnesium bisglycinate, and she slept worse on the magnesium bisglycinate. Who knows why? But so sometimes that's why I like to recommend try different forms. The women can struggle on certain points of, you know, obviously during menopause, but also during like their luteal phase of their cycle with temperature regulation at night because of those hormones. And glycine can help lower our body temperature at night to help us get into that deeper rested state. So in that regard, I would say, you know, maybe the bisglycinate could help. But again, I just, that's a great question. I'm curious to look into if there's a reason or if there's research behind it.
I got a question. How young can you be to start supplementing magnesium?
So our kids' products are labeled 4 and up, and that's because Health Canada has never done any research into those nutrients at lower age groups. It doesn't mean that they've found reasons why lower age groups shouldn't take them. In Europe, we're allowed to label them 2 and up. So my kids started getting it from 1 and up. There's, you know, kids really need magnesium, K2. They need all of that for growth factors. I saw a huge difference in my son's nervous system when I started supplementing him with magnesium at the age of 1. So officially, they're 4 and up. I gave him a teaspoon. So all of our dosing on our kids ones are age specific, and it breaks it down on the label. But I gave all of my kids a teaspoon as soon as they were fully on solids, and I noticed a huge difference.
Worst
So
case situation, they pass it. They don't store it in the liver.
exactly. Again, too much magnesium comes out the bowels, and especially with some children's diets where they love their breads and pastas and they can be very picky eaters. So a lot of children do struggle with constipation, and the magnesium citrate can really help move their bowels. And then again, like we talked about, our kids formula also has the B6 in there. It really helps for focus. So again, we talked about when do you take your magnesium. Some children, it's great for them to get a dose before school because it helps them with that focus, and their teachers are very thankful when they're a little more calm.
You've also said about the gel applying to the bottoms of babies' feet.
Yes. Yeah. So the topical magnesium research shows that it gets best absorbed through the hair follicles and sweat glands. So bottom of the feet and the palms are really nice areas where we have a lot of sweat glands. There is a bit of a texture to topical magnesium, so kids probably wouldn't like it on their hands. So yeah, massaging into your children's feet before bed or baby's feet, especially if a baby is of an age where they shouldn't be supplementing orally yet. For breastfeeding moms, if you make sure that your magnesium status is good in your body, then it will go through your breast milk as well.
Is there the kid topical one, or is it
The topical one is fine for all ages. Any other questions?
How do you know you have too much magnesium if you're taking too much?
So that's when your bowels become what we call comfortably loose or too loose. Like if you were to take like half a bottle of magnesium, it would be like a crazy bowel cleanse. So that's why we recommend gradually, right? So the powder is nice because you can just dose a little bit more every day. Capsules, you would have to take a whole capsule or one less, but you really can. Like so because I have 3 kids and I go all out for Christmas, and there's more, I'm eating more sugar, I'm drinking more, I'm not sleeping as much, I'm more active. I actually noticed a couple of years ago that I started to get muscle cramps in December. Taking the same amount of magnesium every day as I do the other times of the year, but I was obviously more active. My diet wasn't as good. I'm not sleeping as much. So I just added another half teaspoon of magnesium into my routine, and that got rid of them for that month. And then in January, I just pulled back on that because then I was back to kind of my better diet and less stress. So you really, again, if you listen to your body, but it's nice to just kind of play around with that dosage and listen. The bowels are the main thing. So we talked about also magnesium bisglycinate will not draw water to your bowels. It will not give you bowel upset. But no matter what form of magnesium you're taking, if you get too much magnesium, it will dispel it through the bowels. Again, it shouldn't cause like cramping. It shouldn't be really uncomfortable. It's just like looser stools, easier bowel movements, which can be a benefit, yes.
I don't know if you said this or not, but do you take it with food, or can you do it on
You can do it on an empty stomach. It really doesn't matter. Again, we say what works best for your routine. Do you notice a benefit before sleep? But some people say, oh, if I wait till bedtime, I forget. Well, then just take it. Like the biggest thing is just get your magnesium in, whatever works for you. But if you are the kind of person that notices a big benefit, like some people say they're bad with routine, but they always remember their magnesium bisglycinate before bed because otherwise they don't sleep well. And then that's a good cure to remembering your routine.
Is there anything that might block the absorption of magnesium? Like what do you eat?
Mostly with food, magnesium is considered to be a cofactor for a lot of vitamins, which means it just helps with the absorption. And magnesium actually helps activate vitamin D. So without enough magnesium in our body, our vitamin D won't go to use. So typically magnesium is fine. It's certain medications, especially if you see like a medication that says take away from any other supplements, don't take your magnesium with that. But basically magnesium will absorb. There might be slight competing absorptions, but it's nothing that you really need to worry about with magnesium. Like, you hear calcium and iron, that sort of thing. You don't really have to worry about that with magnesium.
like let's say I change nothing else but like what I'm doing with my life, and I just start taking the supplement. How soon do you see it or notice a difference if you're really taking
It depends what you're looking for a difference, if it's something that you can notice right away, but most people actually notice it within 1 dose of our magnesium. So that liquid one, we've had people take a full dose and 20 minutes later they notice that they're more relaxed when they're anxious. The magnesium bisglycinate, people will report a better sleep if that's what they're struggling with that night. It's like the magnesium goes in and they just feel better. So again, if it's something like bone or hormonal health, that'll take a bit of time for the body to kind of regulate and for you to notice. But when it's easy things like stress, sleep, anxiety, muscle cramps, like restless legs. People will have restless legs, they'll take a dose of magnesium, and then those restless legs will go away. So as long as it's well-absorbed magnesium, which we, again, really focus on, you should notice a difference right away. Great question. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, thanks again for your time. I know everybody's really busy. Please take a goodie bag. And if you have any questions about the right form for you or any other questions, please get in touch with me. My name's Meg. It's just meg@itlhealth.com to reach me. On Instagram, I'm Ms_magnesium. So you can follow me for more magnesium tips. And thanks again.
Thank you.
I have my business card.
I think I might have my card in my purse. Sorry?
Can I see the microphone?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot that I even had it on.
I put it in my name.
Just say your name. I just need to microphone test.
Yeah.
Say your name.
My name is Meg Esser. We're talking about magnesium today. I have a little visual to keep everybody
Chris,
entertained,
test.
but it is very small.
You're good. Okay.
Okay.
And you are live.
Wonderful. So again, welcome everybody. We're talking about magnesium today, how we can get it through food, and why it might be difficult to get it through food, and how to choose the right supplement if we choose that route. Just curious, everybody here, does anybody currently supplement with magnesium? We've got a few. Do you know what forms you take?
Magnesium biglycinate.
Mm-hmm. Did you say you supplement with magnesium?
I'm not sure, but it's like the Calm brand.
Oh, the Calm brand. Okay, so that's an ionic magnesium citrate. Awesome. And Chris, you kind of did a little here, a little there.
I took it, but then I quickly stopped because I messed up my stomach.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can get into that. Some forms are harsher on the stomach than others. Yeah. Well, we're going to hook you up, Chris, with one that's not going to hurt your stomach. So magnesium is really important. We consider it a foundational mineral because it's responsible for 80% of biochemical reactions in your body, which translates to 800 processes that your body does that require magnesium. So if you don't have enough magnesium, not all of those processes can happen. And they don't necessarily all need to happen in one day, but they are all vital for optimal health. And when we talk about optimal health, that's, reaching the best health we can. It doesn't mean we can't be healthy without, optimal nutrients, but the right amount of nutrients will make us be the healthiest and make every system function properly. When there's limited amount of nutrients to our body, it has to prioritize certain processes over others, which keep us alive, but might make us, feel tired or not sleep well or have muscle cramps or that sort of thing. So a lot of people ask what magnesium is needed for, and it's very popular for sleep and stress, especially sleep. We hear that a lot. Thankfully, with social media, there's a lot of popularity of magnesium for sleep. A lot of people know it really helps muscle cramps, but most people don't realize how vital it is for every part of the body. So this is basically listing almost everything in the body, but it's essential for muscle function, nerve function, for brain health, for heart health, for immune health, for bone health, for hormone health, for respiratory health, for endocrine health, which is, our thyroid, our adrenals, and our digestive health. So it's true that every single system in the body requires magnesium. And when we don't have enough of it, then our body has to prioritize where to put it. And that's where it will prioritize based on life, needs, and maybe sacrifice a little bit of sleep or stress management or muscular health just to make sure that everything else is functioning properly. So when we talk about magnesium, it's very difficult to test for magnesium in our body. And that's because less than 1% of the magnesium in our body is found in our blood. So that's a hard thing for people to understand initially, but when we look at all the magnesium in our body, about 57% is in our bones, we have magnesium in our soft tissue, and we have magnesium in our blood, but less than 1% of it is in our blood. So when we go to the doctor to test our vitamin D, our iron, our B12, basically any testing at the doctor, what does the doctor test? Anybody? What kind of test does your doctor run for you when you're looking for nutrient deficiencies?
Blood test?
A blood test. That's the only test a doctor has ever run for me in Canada, and less than 1% of magnesium is found in our blood. So if my magnesium is shown to be a proper level in my blood, that's not accurate of what's in my body. My doctor is not testing my magnesium level in my bones or my soft tissues or my muscles. So the interesting thing as well is that the body has to have the right amount of magnesium in the blood in order to keep the heart pumping and to keep the body alive. If you don't have the right amount of magnesium in your blood, it's generally not a problem with your overall magnesium status. It's generally a problem with what we call the homeostasis, the balance in your body. So what is going on in your body that the body is not putting the right amount of magnesium in your blood? It's not that you have too much or too little magnesium, it's that something else is going wrong in your body, that the magnesium is not going into your blood. So a blood test is not useful to understand our magnesium status. Because of that, we typically go by magnesium deficiency symptoms. So we look at what's going on symptomatically in our body to indicate that we do not have enough magnesium for the processes. So a telltale sign is muscle cramps. A lot of people believe muscle cramps to be an electrolyte deficiency. Electrolytes can be a factor in muscle cramps, but the primary one is magnesium, because every time our muscles contract, they use calcium, and every time they relax, they use magnesium. So if your muscles cannot relax, it's generally because you do not have enough magnesium available to them to make them relax. And again, when we talk about the amount of magnesium available to the body is going to make sure that there's enough magnesium in the blood to keep the heart pumping, but maybe, if there's not enough magnesium, it can sacrifice a muscle cramp, because that's not going to kill you. That's not going to make you faint. That's not going to send you to the hospital. So again, it's important to understand that while we don't know exactly why and when and how the body takes the right magnesium for our own personal use, there are certain processes that the body can sacrifice in order to prioritize magnesium for other use. So restless legs, if anybody's experienced trying to sleep and their legs just get really restless, that's another telltale symptom. Stress and anxiety is a really big one. When we're stressed, our body uses more magnesium, and this is because it's using more magnesium to produce the stress hormones, and it also just, all the activation of the nervous system just causes us to have more urinary excretion of magnesium. And then when we're low in magnesium, we have a hard time handling stress. So it creates a very vicious cycle about, not enough magnesium to handle our stress, and because we're low, we can't handle our stress, and on and on and on. So we need to really focus on magnesium for stress in those situations. Insomnia is often a result of stress, but magnesium helps our nervous system go into a deep resting state at night. So without enough magnesium to our body, we might sleep. We will sleep, but we might not go into that deep resting state in order to get the proper needs for our body to fully rejuvenate and recover for the next day. Bone health is a massive one. We hear a lot about calcium for our bones, and it's true that our bones need calcium, but magnesium and calcium work together for bone health, and there's a lot of magnesium. Bones are made up of a lot of magnesium, so magnesium is very important for that. We also have hormonal health. This goes for all the hormones in our body. Also, blood pressure, blood sugar issues. All of the metabolic disorders have a role with magnesium deficiency. Trouble focusing. Studies show that magnesium can help with ADHD symptoms and just general focus in general. Low energy, heart issues, and even headaches. There's a lot of different reasons magnesium can help headaches, but a big one is because it helps relax the muscles and the nerves that are causing all of that tension. So often when I read these deficiency symptoms, everybody kind of laughs because most of us have one or more of these. But again, it's just illustrating again how important magnesium is for our overall general health. So then we look at this and we go, okay, so why do so many of us have these low magnesium deficiency symptoms? Why are we all low in magnesium? Well, soil depletion is a really big factor. Since the 70s, we have a lot less magnesium in our soils, which causes there to be less magnesium in our food. Poor food choices is another big factor in our society. We're very focused on convenience foods. We're all very busy. We're all very stressed. When you process food, you lose 85% of the magnesium content. And that's all processed food, whether you find it in a health food store or you find it in, a fast food restaurant. Also, when we cook food, we deplete magnesium. And the amount of magnesium depleted would depend on how high you heat that food and for how long. So then, we have some movements that say, well, let's eat all raw food because then we know that we're going to get optimal magnesium. We haven't lost any magnesium. Well, there are certain foods that if we don't break down certain nutrients, we actually can't absorb the magnesium through the food. So it sounds like a little bit doomsday-ish, but all that we need to take away from that is it's hard to get proper magnesium through food, and we just have to understand how and then actually do that. And that's the key for a lot of us. I have the understanding, I've studied nutrition of how to get my magnesium from my food, but in my busy life, I don't always practice it. Because of all those reasons, it's actually proven that we only absorb 30 to 40% of the magnesium in food into our body. So if we're looking at trying to get our RDA of magnesium, which is around 400 milligrams, we need to times that number by 4 and try to get at least 1,600 milligrams of our food because we're really only absorbing 30 to 40% of it. So that goes with the improper food preparation, if we're not cooking the right foods, if we're not soaking, sprouting, that sort of thing. Anything like alcohol or sugar will deplete our body of magnesium because it just requires magnesium to process those things because they're not good for us. But even something like a high level of physical activity, which can be very good for us, again, because every time the muscles need to relax, every time they relax, they need magnesium. If you're a weightlifter, if you're a runner, if you're just an active, busy mom, you know, chasing around after 3-year-olds all day will just cause your body to need a little bit more magnesium because you're always on the move. So again, there are good things that also deplete our body of magnesium. Certain medications will require that we need more magnesium because we just can't absorb it as well. And then, of course, if we have any medications like that or bowel problems that are impeding our absorption of any nutrients, magnesium will be affected. And then, of course, stress. So we talked about that stress loop. When we're stressed, we use more magnesium. When we have low magnesium, we feel more stressed. And it's just this really vicious cycle. And in our experience, most people who are stressed lack the focus or even the ability to really look at their diet and get magnesium through their diet. So we recommend a well-absorbed magnesium supplement to first help just get that magnesium in the body, relax the body, help the brain so that that person then can focus on their diet. I know when I've been at my most stressed, if anybody says, improve your diet, or even, you know, take more time for yourself, it's like, do you even understand what I'm going through right now? So this is where a good magnesium supplement can really just kind of stop that feeling in its tracks, allow you to take a bit of a breather, and then when you're ready, focus on other stress management. So when people hear something like this, you know, it's obvious we need more magnesium, but some people ask, well, do I really need magnesium? I know a lot of people in our world kind of get tired of always being pushed, you know, you need this and you need that, and take magnesium and take omegas and take probiotics, and it's sometimes like, why can't I get everything through my diet? So we already talked about why it's so difficult to get magnesium through our diet. It's important to note that magnesium, according to Health Canada, is one of the least consumed nutrients through food. So even the government is saying Canadians do not get enough magnesium. And according to a report, more than half of Canadian adults don't consume the RDA of magnesium through food. So again, the RDA is around 400 milligrams, and we only absorb 30 to 40%. So if over half of Canadians aren't even getting 400 milligrams through food, and if they're only absorbing 30 to 40% of that, we're all being placed in a very magnesium deficient status. So, and as a reminder, less than 1% of the magnesium is found in the blood. So it's difficult to test. We really need to be in tune with our body to understand, is magnesium something that would benefit me? And the great news is that if you supplement with the right magnesium, so in our company, we focus on pure and well-absorbed magnesium supplements, we believe that you should notice a difference if you're taking magnesium. If you're not noticing a difference, you are likely taking the wrong form, or you are not taking enough of the magnesium that you're taking. Maybe you're just not in tune with your body, but if you really kind of listen to your body, look at how you feel without it, look at how you feel with it, you really should notice a difference. And the benefit of one cool thing about supplementing with magnesium is it's very safe. If the body has too much magnesium in it in a day, it will dispel that magnesium through the bowels. So this is one reason why we can get bowel upset from magnesium, is if we're taking way too much. But there are also other forms, which we'll talk about, that can be harsh on the stomach. But generally, if you're taking too much magnesium, your bowels will dispel it, but it actually shouldn't make your bowels upset. It should just give you loose bowels. So we have even advised people, you know, gradually increase your magnesium every day until your bowels are comfortably loose. And at that time, your body has told you this is the right amount of magnesium for me. The only person that should be careful about not over supplementing with, but about experimenting with the right amount of magnesium for their body is somebody with a kidney disease or poor kidney function, because our kidneys will filter magnesium before our bowels dispel them. So if you have weak kidneys, you should talk to your doctor or pharmacist before supplementing with magnesium. So again, should I supplement with magnesium? So magnesium deficiency is very common, and it's a problem throughout the whole world. So it's interesting, sometimes when we look at societies who might not have enough food available to them, we know that they have nutrient deficiencies. But magnesium deficiency is a problem all around the world, even in societies where we have abundance, like North America and certain European countries. And again, this is because we're focusing on the wrong foods and our lifestyles are way too fast-paced for our bodies to be able to keep up. So we're just not getting enough magnesium because of our poor food choices. The WHO estimates that 75% of the global population is deficient in magnesium. And again, that's not areas of the world that are deficient in in food supply. That is like the whole global average. And although it's difficult to test for exact magnesium deficiency, some experts believe that North Americans and Europeans are actually even more deficient in magnesium than some societies who have a lack of food supply, again, because of what we've done to our farming and what foods we're eating and our high pace of life. And again, as we talked about, magnesium is safe to supplement with. So if you have any doubts, any concerns, we'll get into this, but definitely talk to Sarah or me after about how to supplement, choose the right one, but we're going to get into that, into a little bit of the science of it, and help to kind of understand how to choose the right supplement for yourself. So magnesium supplementation can be administered in two ways, and that's oral and transdermal. So an oral is a magnesium that you would take and drink, take a capsule into your body. Transdermal or topical is something that you would rub onto yourself. So those are the two ways you will get you can get magnesium supplementation. And for all of you that were able to come out in person today, we have both for you to try so you can see how you react to both of them. So oral magnesium forms. Magnesium, when we supplement with it, you have your mineral magnesium and it's combined with another molecule for stability. You can never see, there's never a magnesium supplement that's just magnesium. Our bodies cannot absorb magnesium on its own and it won't stay stable. So we have to combine it with another molecule. And that's why we have different forms of magnesium. Currently, there are over a dozen forms of supplemental magnesium, and this is where it gets really confusing with people. Do I take a magnesium citrate? Do I take a magnesium bisglycinate? Do I take a magnesium threate, a magnesium oxide, a magnesium malate, and on and on and on. And nobody really knows what to take. So just to help break it down, these are just a few of the forms. When we attach magnesium to citric acid, we get magnesium citrate. When we attach magnesium to oxygen, we get magnesium oxide. Magnesium to threonic acid, we get magnesium L-threonate, and magnesium to glycine, we get magnesium bisglycinate, and on and on. So that's why you're hearing different forms. It all depends on what that magnesium is being attached to. Now, every one of these forms will have a different, what we call a bioavailability. So they will all absorb at different rates. So there are certain ones, as we talked about, that will act on the bowels more, and there are certain molecules that are more efficient at bringing magnesium into the body than others. And so that's what we're going to talk about, understanding a few of these forms. When we look at topical magnesium, magnesium chloride and magnesium sulfate continue to be the leading forms of topical magnesium, and that's because, whoa! And he's really excited about topical magnesium, just like me. That's because these are water soluble and the skin is able to absorb them. They can both be naturally sourced, but Epsom salt is more often synthetically sourced than the magnesium chloride. Magnesium chloride comes from the sea, with the Dead Sea and the Zechstein Sea being the leading sources of magnesium chloride. Research on topical magnesium is limited. So we don't have enough data to show that it is the best way to get magnesium into our body, although there is some data that shows that it helps. And we have a lot of positive customer feedback about how much a topical magnesium helps people. But for that reason, our company always recommends doing a topical and an oral together. Because the topical, there is some evidence to show it gets in your body, but we don't know how much of that magnesium fully gets into the body. But again, we know that a lot of the magnesium in our body is found in our muscles. So topical is a really nice choice to get magnesium directly into the muscles, especially directly into those muscles that you want it in. So if you're, doing an upper body workout, you want to rub that magnesium on those muscles that you just worked out, because that will help them recover faster. Or just the way we all stand, whatever we do for work. We all have our problem muscles. For a lot of people, it's the calves. For some people, it's the bottom of the feet. Some people, it's the shoulders because they're sitting at a desk. So topical magnesium is really nice because you can target that specific muscle to get the magnesium exactly into that muscle. When we look at the difference between magnesium chloride and magnesium sulfate is primarily Epsom salts. all of the clinical research points to magnesium chloride being the better choice for absorption and the safer one. So less, less bowel upset if you are taking it internally, and also just a safer source because magnesium chloride tends to be a little more pure from these seas. Doesn't mean that Epsom salt or magnesium sulfate is not pure, but a lot of times it's magnesium chloride that is being tested for better purity. Okay, so before we get on a little bit more, I want to define something called elemental magnesium, because you'll see this on a lot of nutrient labels. And nobody understands what it means, which makes it hard for them to choose the right magnesium supplement. So elemental magnesium is best understood as the portion of that magnesium supplement that is just magnesium and not the carrier molecule. So when we take our magnesium and our carrier molecule, let's say magnesium bisglycinate, we have magnesium and we have glycine. Magnesium will hold space and have a certain weight, and glycine will hold space and have a certain weight. So now we put these together, and that's the total weight of that whole compound, magnesium bisglycinate. But we want to understand how much magnesium are we getting. So if we don't weigh the glycine and we don't consider that space that the glycine is taking, how much just magnesium are we getting from that supplement? And that is what we define elemental magnesium as. Does that make sense to everybody? So if you see, like on our magnesium bisglycinate capsules, you'll see that each capsule has 800 milligrams of magnesium bisglycinate. So that means when you take the magnesium and the glycine and you weigh them together, you get 800 milligrams. But when we take away all the glycine in that supplement, how much magnesium are we left with? 95 milligrams. The rest of that is glycine. So that's our elemental magnesium. That's how much magnesium we're actually able to get through that supplement. Does anybody have any questions about that term? No? Okay, awesome. Okay, so with all of this, then we look at, the true confusion comes with, well, what's the best form to take? Should I take the ionic magnesium citrate? Should I take the magnesium bisglycinate? Do I need an L-threonate? Do I need a malate? Do I need an oxide? So the first thing that we look at with this is understanding the absorbability of a supplement. Because if we are taking a form of magnesium that doesn't absorb well, then it's basically, first of all, as good as taking nothing at all. Second of all, sometimes we can get bowel upset from it. Chris, do you remember what form you took?
I have no idea.
No idea. Okay.
Poster boy.
Yeah, I know. I love it. Well, it's great that you bring it up, because a lot of people are scared to take magnesium because of that, right? And they hear, like, it's very popular. People say, oh, magnesium can upset your stomach, be careful, and then it makes everybody fearful of taking magnesium. So the classic magnesium that we want to basically stay away from is magnesium oxide. So again, we talked before about that's magnesium attached to oxygen. Now, magnesium oxide, when we look at studies, has a 4 to 10% absorption rate. So you barely absorb any of it. And when we also look at studies, there are lots of studies to prove that it is an excellent laxative. Is anybody old enough here to remember milk of magnesia? Yeah. That was always like a stomach remedy. If people were constipated years ago, you'd go to the pharmacy, get milk of magnesia, and it was just a laxative. That's what magnesium oxide is. So magnesium oxide, again, in some ways it has its place because we want to make sure that our bowels are flowing. If people are really bunged up, they need something to flush out their bowels. That's magnesium oxide. But again, we're not absorbing any of the magnesium. The whole purpose of that is just for the magnesium to help, dispel our bowels, and that's it. One thing about magnesium oxide or a few things that we really have to remember is, one, it's very cheap. So if you go to a store and there's tons of different forms of magnesium, you will literally see a range of $6.99 for a bottle of magnesium supplements, all the way up to $76.99. So there's a huge range, and it's not always, the price isn't always the be-all end-all, but we sometimes have to consider price. Why is this one so much cheaper? Magnesium oxide is super cheap. And that's, it's very cheap to manufacture. And the thing with magnesium oxide is it looks like there's a lot of elemental magnesium in it. So again, that factor of how much magnesium per capsule. Elemental magnesium actually has magnesium oxide, actually has some of the highest elemental magnesium. So people look at it and they go, oh, in one capsule I can get 500 milligrams of magnesium for $6.99 versus this one at $76.99 and I can only get 50 milligrams of magnesium. Easy choice. Not easy choice because that one just flushed through you. It's also important to understand that magnesium oxide, because it's so high in elemental magnesium, So again, you can fit a lot of magnesium in that capsule. So it has a very small molecular size compared to a lot of other forms of magnesium, which is again why it looks appealing to people, but it does not absorb. So I'm getting ahead of myself too. Magnesium bisglycinate, take that one. That one is an extremely popular form of magnesium right now, and that is because it's very well absorbed. It's very gentle, so Chris, this is one to consider. It doesn't actually go down into your colon. It doesn't get absorbed through that whole digestive pathway. And this is important too for people who don't absorb nutrients well, who might have digestive issues or medications that cause them to impede absorption. When you take magnesium bisglycinate, so again, this is magnesium attached to glycine, it goes through your stomach and then gets absorbed into the middle of the small intestine, right into the intestinal cells. So it doesn't undergo that bowel process, so it absorbs well. It's very gentle. It doesn't draw any water to your bowels, and it just goes right to work, being used. So it's very, very high absorption rate, and it's very gentle. So a lot of people prefer to supplement with that one. It's not inexpensive like magnesium oxide. You're looking more like $25, $30 a bottle of magnesium bisglycinate, but it's not really expensive like a patented form of magnesium L-threonate or something. So that's why it's become a very popular form, absorbs well, makes you feel great, and doesn't give you bowel upset. However, the drawback about magnesium bisglycinate, and this is a lot of forms of magnesium, but we'll focus on magnesium bisglycinate because it's so popular, is that molecular size. So again, I mentioned in one capsule, 800 milligrams of magnesium bisglycinate, but that leads to only 95 milligrams of magnesium because the rest of that is glycine. So you have 2 glycine molecules in this and 1 magnesium molecule, and they're attached together like this. So the glycine is kind of carrying the magnesium into the body, but the glycine is a lot bigger and heavier, so it takes up a big space of that capsule. Now we know that we want around 400 milligrams of magnesium in a day. So when we look at that 95 milligrams of magnesium per capsule, then we now have to take 4 in order to get that proper amount of magnesium. So then that form seems somewhat unappealing to people because they go, well, I don't want to have to take 4 capsules. So unfortunately, how some companies get around this problem of not being able to get enough magnesium per capsule is they add in magnesium oxide. So because magnesium oxide is so small, we're able to add a bit of magnesium oxide into a magnesium bisglycinate capsule. Now we've doubled our magnesium. Now suddenly you're looking at 2 magnesium bisglycinates. One has 200 milligrams of magnesium and one has 95. So which one seems more appealing? The 200. Now I only have to take 2 to get my proper magnesium. But you have to make sure that you understand what's in that supplement. And if you look at the ingredients, it will tell you that there's 2 forms of magnesium, but you have to have the awareness to look at the ingredients and understand what magnesium oxide is and why you don't want it. So if you choose magnesium bisglycinate, it's important to get that very pure form. If you don't, then you won't be absorbing all of the 200 milligrams. And again, we're back to the potential bowel upset that magnesium oxide would give us. There are a lot of well-absorbed forms of magnesium on the market, but again, magnesium bisglycinate is a really nice choice. Another reason why magnesium bisglycinate is so popular is because it's, again, magnesium attached to the glycine. Magnesium is well studied to help for sleep and stress. And as we talked about, that's a big problem in our society today. But glycine is also well studied to help with sleep and stress. So that's a primary reason that a lot of people are taking magnesium these days, is to help sleep and stress. So now you get magnesium helping your sleep and stress, you get your glycine helping your sleep and stress, and when you take those in the right dose, which we recommend 4 capsules to give you the right amount of glycine and magnesium, it really helps. You really notice it, especially when you take it before bed. It helps you get a really great sleep. But then the great thing is it also has huge applications for muscles, for glutathione productions, and temperature regulations. So a lot of people see a very, very big benefit on magnesium bisglycinate. Talk a little bit about ionic magnesium citrate as well. I'm glad that you brought up that powder form, because magnesium citrate is another form of magnesium. But if you don't have it in the right form, it won't absorb that well. So when we take magnesium citrate in capsules, or even a powder called magnesium citrate, that's our standard magnesium citrate. And it's not terrible, but we hear a lot in the nutrition world, magnesium bisglycinate absorbs better than magnesium citrate. And that is true in that pill form. But in that specific powder form that you're taking, and we have a version of it as well, we call it Mag 365, there's actually 2 ingredients. It's magnesium carbonate and citric acid. And when you add water to that, it activates it into what we call an ionic magnesium citrate or activated magnesium citrate. And studies show on that specific form that it absorbs just as well as magnesium bisglycinate. So again, if you're taking that in a specific capsule form, it won't absorb as well. But when you're taking that perfect powder form and it's fizzing and it's activating and it stops bubbling and then it's clear, now it's completely active and your body can go to work immediately using it. And it's great. It's our Mag 365, we retail for $16.95 for a 37-day dose. So it's a very affordable form of magnesium. And again, it's active so your body can go to work using it. But you do have to activate that powder into a drink or it will not be absorbable. So again, that's where we talk about then the medium. So we cannot get magnesium citrate to absorb well without putting it in a powder form. And with magnesium bisglycinate, we suggest taking 4 capsules in order to get that right dose. Some people ask us, can we open those capsules into water and take it that way? Because I don't want